Hey folks, this is Best in Slot. Welcome back to our Prehistoric Kingdom series where we try to rebuild famous structures, vehicles, little people from Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, the entire franchise series. Today we're going to do something a little different compared to what we've been doing in the past. We've been doing a lot of small things up till now. Today we're going to build a big old structure. We're going to build the Indominus Rex paddock, and we're actually going to put a dinosaur in it, which as you'll see later on can't bloody move an inch. So we're working on the Indominus Rex paddock, a very strange square-shaped paddock, which as you see in the film is very much incomplete. The roof is uneven, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be doing. I'm pretty sure first of all, I want to explain what I'm doing here. First of all, I got my people standing on each other. I found this image of somebody who'd gone on a tour off the actual paddock site, and I was trying to use their size against the doorway to judge how big the whole thing should be. So this is much too big. It's about, I'd say 6 or 7 people tall, the Indominus Rex doorway. It's definitely a large location, but when you've got it in this big wide open area like it is here, it actually looks quite small. You'll notice I've got the thinner concrete blocks at the front, and then I'm double-siding that, and in the middle I've got like a dark brown slab, and that's because there should be a gap, a noticeable gap between the concrete, but of course if you leave that, then you're just going to see air and space and all of time itself. But yeah, so the idea was to put a thin, dark coloured slab between the walls, and that way it could look like there's a gap there, or like it's been manufactured, but you wouldn't be able to actually see through it. This build was hard work because A, it's a very different kind of build than what we've done in the past, and B, the images are just very inconsistent. There's less good images of the Indominus paddock than there is of a lot of the other things I've done up till this point. I spent a long time researching images and trawling through Jurassic World itself, trying to find images. Of course, we're going for accuracy, we're going for detail. There's going to be a lot of work on making that the case. And it's also slightly difficult because the Indominus Rex paddock, I'm like 99% sure of this, I'm pretty sure the Indominus Rex paddock in Jurassic World is not finished. Now, obviously it wasn't open to the public, so of course you'd expect it to not be finished. This, by the way, on the left is the gap where the little building is going to go, you know, where the observation room, I guess you'd call it. But I'm pretty sure in the film they didn't build the 2 back walls. They build the front wall, which is where the door is, and they build the left wall, which of course is where the they must have done though. They build the left wall, which is where the viewing chamber is. But there are no images online that I could see of the back wall and the right wall. Now there is one point during the film where Owen and security man who dies kind of emerge out of that wall, but I suspect that's a different set, or it was I don't know how that worked. But there's just no good images of that back wall, so I just kind of assumed it looked similar, and I made it up. So yeah, this is the basic shape. It is a square. People keep making it like an octagon and stuff like that. I've seen loads of people do that online. It's definitely a square, as far as I can tell anyway. Well, these front 2 walls are 90-degree angles at the very least, so I'm going to assume the rest of it's a square. And it's basically slabs of concrete. We've done all the out concrete at this point already without me even talking about it. Slightly weird concrete in that there's different heights on these sort of long vertical slabs of concrete, horizontal I should say, and then there's these little vertical ones that you can see in the middle there, and then there's some thinner ones on top. And it clearly looks unfinished because the roof ends at different points, as you can see. Throughout the whole outer building, the roof is staggered around. It was around this point where I realised whilst the outside looks like I've made it, the inside looks more like these individual slabs. So I had to go around all the inside and change that up again. So the inside and the outside look a little bit different, and that goes for these struts as well. There's these metallic struts all the way around the outside, just trying to obviously make the whole thing a little bit tougher. And whilst inside you can see the metallic struts, the outside you can't see the metallic struts, which makes it quite a difficult thing to build basically, because they do come straight down on the outside as well. So here I'm just going around and moving the struts and squeezing the struts a little bit so that you can see them on the inside of the building, but you can't see them on the outside of the building, basically. And of course this will be on the workshop by tonight. It isn't right now, but by the time you folks at home see this video, it should be on the workshop and available for download. Our first one with an actual dinosaur. This isn't really part of the park per se yet. I know it's tough because I was just in the mood for this building. What I really want to build next is the visitor center. I'm a little scared because it's going to be such a big job, because I do want to do the interior as well. So I'm kind of holding off on that for the purposes of my psychology, but it is something we'll have to do eventually. The idea with the INDOMINUS Rex paddock here is that we're going to build it, I'm going to put it down, we're going to put some foliage in, we're going to put a dinosaur in, but maybe we'll move it later on, basically. It's just here right now, just because that's what I happen to want to build. So that is the door. I wanted to make sure that this door, this is the one that opens. The door only is half open by default. And I wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure the door would actually slide in and out without causing a problem. Like, I wanted it to look good whilst it slid in and out, basically, just like that. So, you know, just like it would do in the film. Right, now this was definitely the hardest part, figuring out how all this was going to come together. Obviously, there's the viewing platform thing. We see Claire there, we see Masrani there, we see Owen there, and it's this kind of metallic box that hangs halfway up through the INDOMINUS Rex paddock, looks out onto the paddock. There's some concept art of it out there, which looks promising, but it actually isn't very realistic to the film itself. So I've made the hole, as you can see, and basically this half of the box is concrete, or like matching concrete with the rest of the paddock. And then when you walk through it, it turns into a more metallic-y looking thing. So that was one of the difficulties, the fact that the box actually changes design. So I kind of built two boxes and stuck them together, basically. And again, here there's loads of little details that I never really noticed before, like the sort of staircase on the left-hand side up to this chamber has this weird little underhang bit. We've got this black metallic ridged metal sitting atop it as well. There's a lot we're going to be doing with this. There's 4 great things over here on the side. Underneath, this was really difficult actually, because there's no right angle triangle shape in the game. So as you can tell, it's all equilateral triangles, which actually makes life a lot more difficult. Could I build a right angle triangle out of equilateral triangles? Maybe. Or with a square? I don't know. Anyways, but the point was that underneath the building, underneath this hanging point, there's these strut things, these triangular support structures made out of this like army green metal. And getting both sides are slightly different because the left hand side has those underhangs that we just seen a second ago. So getting these to match up was actually really obnoxious. There's a lot of finagling, a lot of figuring things out in this section. It was pretty hard work, I'm not gonna lie. So here we're building the metal viewing structure. Of course, as I say, this is where you see Claire and Owen at some point where Owen first finds out about the INDOMINUS Rex and you built a dinosaur, seems like a bad idea, and so forth. So this is it's hard to see with this metal texture sometimes, but it's like a sort of pale green sort of structure. And it has 7 windows precisely. Now here, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to figure out how you get 7 precisely, and kind of just ended up building the windows and then stretching them out to fit, which I think is probably the best way to do it in retrospect. So we've got 7 there, stretch those out, beautiful. And we'll do a bit more detail on those, but we're going to build the inside as well, yada yada yada, lots of work to do still. There's still one thing I don't quite get about this, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Next part is there is a 2-level staircase that approaches the building, yeah, so that's what I'm doing there. So I'm using the staircase with the modern metal thingamajiggy, a little bit of a floor about halfway through, and building out a little area for the people to be able to actually enter the building, which is always very useful. And here I wanted to use the fence, right, because the fence there is going to make my life a lot easier. Of course it is, understandably. But this doesn't work, as you'll see in a second. Kind of put it on there, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. And then you try to go there and you realise, yeah, that's never going to work. So I had to build my own fence as well. Just because you want part of it, you can't bend like a pre-built fence. Obviously, like why would you be able to? I mean, if you angled it and then swapped back to world angle and then scaled it downwards, you might be able to do something, but it's going to look funky. So it's just a lot easier. I mean, it's more time consuming, but it'll look a lot better if you just build your own fences, basically. So that's what we're doing there. So that way we can get that really nice sharp connection between the vertical and the diagonal lines. And again, just matching this to the film, so there's 1 bar in the middle, 3 going down the side. Really do just want to keep these as accurate as possible. I've kind of committed to that idea now, which again is why I'm nervous about the visitor centre. yeah, I think it's gonna pay off in the end. And this one you could actually use. I don't know if guests can enter this, but I mean it's 2 staircases and flooring at the top, so I think guests could probably actually use this building as like a viewing area for your dinosaurs. The problem is I filled it with foliage, so the dinosaur can't move because I wanted it to look like the Indominus Rex paddock. But you know, people could choose how they want to do it. It's not the best looking building. It's kind of part of the problem. I had a lot of fun in the end doing it. There's lots of little details that I'm doing here that, you know, I never really noticed before, like these little struts here that support the entranceway into the building. There's a lot of this shaping going on, you know, this kind of crisscross shape. There's a lot of that throughout the entire build as well. Positioning the struts correctly because they do overlap with the concrete building a little bit. But the actual building itself is a little bit ugly. And then I remembered something I'd completely forgotten about, that the very bottom of the building has this kind of jutting out, angled concrete kind of facade, basically. Which is fine, you can recreate that really easily with these blocks, as you can see, but then you end up with that problem in the corner. So what I did was I took the triangle block there, as you can see, and just kind of scaled that and rotated that and messed around with that until it kind of roughly fit into that corner. It was difficult, it doesn't look perfect, it was never going to, but the main difficulty, as you can see, was actually just getting the colour bloody right. But yeah, just putting that into each corner, so at least it's got the feet there, at least it's got the edge, you know what I mean? And yeah, that was that basically done. A little bit more detail over here on this. There's some bars on these windows. The middle 3 are clear, the right 2 are not. And then on the inside of the building, and really this is the area I struggled, is the inside of the room, because we don't see that much of the detail. You've got the outer rim, this kind of green, and then you've got like a lighter colour secondary barrier, I guess, that kind of covers the windows on the inside. That's what I'm building there, as you can see. So that's kind of double-barreled. You can't see me, but I did a little shooting animation with my face. Doing some nuts and bolts and stuff like that. These are all connected. Same with the flooring here, so I just need to mark that. But these are, I guess, where basically the floor is connected into slabs of concrete. Like very, not noticeable, but they are definitely slabs of concrete. And they've been obviously nailed or hammered and screwed. Sounds like a fun party, but they've been drilled. Why is every single DIY word a sexual metaphor? Anyways, they've been put onto the floor and sort of drilled in, so I had to build those in as well. Building the doorway here, just wanted to use my little person. It's really, really, really handy to have a size guide, to have a human-sized size guide. So as I said before, I used an actual guest in the game. I made a little model, and that little model now comes around with me around the world, so we can build things a little bit accurately and to rough scale. So that's about the size of the doorway should be, yada yada yada. And here I'm just trying to pick out what details I can from the film itself. Like I said, this was, I'd say, a fairly difficult moment because there isn't that much shown of the inside. This, however, I'm immensely proud of. So I wanted to do the claw marks. Of course, that's a big part of the film, where the Indominus Rex kind of tries to, they think it's trying to claw its way outside, they think it's trying to escape, they think it's trying to claw out the walls. Of course, it isn't, but that's what they believe at the time. So what I did was I took the rubble rock, flattened it, stretched it, and changed the colour so it's a little bit lighter than the walls, and it's got this really nice rough kind of texture to it, and it really does look like scratch marks on the wall. And I think it's those little details that kind of bring this build together. Because as I say, the building itself, pretty ugly. It's this big slab of uneven concrete, but the details are cool. Doing this, I didn't notice this until this point. There's these circular, sort of overly diamondy sort of shapes over the X's, and they've each got these little bolts on them, essentially. There's also a line right down the middle of the door, which I also forgot about. And just rearranging those crosses a little bit, make them a little bit more even. And what are we doing next? Let's find out. Oh, right, yeah, so you see them use these in the film. It's a shame we don't have, like, customizable screens or anything quite yet. Obviously, I'm sure that'll happen eventually, but, you know, that would be low priority, don't get me wrong, I'm not having a pop. But you see Masrani and Claire use these at some point. These kind of standing screen thingamajiggies so they can, you know, observe the dinosaurs and do science, basically. So that's what I'm adding in here, just pushing those a little bit further back. And then on this left-hand side, there is this big dark area. I think it is like a server basically. I think it's a big server, a big computer. There's definitely some sciencey stuff going on. You don't really get a big glimpse of it, but it's dark and it's got some lights going on. It's got some technical babble going on. So that's what that is on the left. And then to the right of that is a bunch of TV screens. 6 TV screens in an array, and then there's one longer one on top. This, by the way, I thought was fantastic. So initially I was just going to use that blue and white one that we've got, but if you use you see the one on the bottom right, that coffee menu in the kind of chalk, if you grab that and then rotate it around, it has a slight blueprinty sort of look. This I'm basically making up, and that's probably quite obvious, but you don't really see this in the game, in the film, so I just kind of wanted to chuck some techie looking stuff on there, basically, to hopefully make it look a little bit better. But yeah, you can rotate those little screens around, and it kind of looks like blueprints. This wall, as far as I'm aware, you never see at any point. So again, I'm just chucking some blueprinty, techie looking stuff on the wall because I didn't know what else to do, basically. A little bit of a barrier there at the bottom. I think we're nearly done. Obviously got to do the interior as well, but yeah, just throwing in some little details, make sure it's all accurate. As accurate as it can be, because that's it, you don't see too much of it. There's lights that you do see dotted around at certain points, so those claw marks look awesome. I'm really proud of those. Again, using my person to get the scale here. This is you see them when they're trying to run away from the Indominus Rex. The first security guard dies, and the second one comes along, and he jams his hand onto this, and him and Owen escape just in time. So that's kind of what I'm building here. I was kind of trying to cheat with the air conditioner. I was a little bit tired at this point, I'm not going to lie. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point, so I was a bit like, yeah, well, maybe I can just, maybe I can cheat a little bit, but decided against it and decided to go back to doing all the detail. But this is the hand thing that they slap their hand against, and I'm just recreating all the buttons on it as best I can. Trying to make that relatively accurate. Decided I don't like this. Unfortunately, the metal piece in this game doesn't really reflect colour very well, so it'd be nice to have like a dull metal that picks up the colour a little bit more. Again, I'm just being very nitpicky, but as I'm playing the game so much and building so many big things that require quite a lot of, let's say, inventive customization, I'm kind of noticing the pieces that I'm missing. Don't get me wrong, again, low priority, but it's just things I'm noting for the future more than anything else. This was a little bit awkward because I had that covered by the metal, but on the other side of the door, and you only see this very, very briefly when they open the door for a split second, but there is a sign, basically. There's a little sign thingamajiggy on the interior of the door, so if the door was shut, you wouldn't see this. It's just on the inside, usually covered up by the door. So adding that in here as well. There's black text on the white, and there's some black text in the little grey bit, and then there's a warning sign on the red. I did not misspell warning there, even if it looked like it, but I knew I already had the N, so I wanted to get the G in before it dropped off the thing. Shut up. Right, so this is the bit that confused me a little bit. So you don't see this back wall at any point, like to the point that I was pretty sure it's not there. Even on like set images, even on people who've gone on tour there, I don't see this. But of course, at some point, Owen and the security guards emerge from this door. It's at the back of the habitat, and they walk through the Indominus Rex habitat, and it looks something like that. So obviously, it goes around both ways, and they got there from this observation chamber from the security room. So what I think they've done is walk out, go down the stairs, walk around the back of the habitat, and then enter the habitat through that little back secret door area. Now I suspect, as I say, that that was actually a different set, that it wasn't actually directly connected to the Indominus Rex paddock. I don't really have proof for that, that's just a theory. Maybe the back wall is just very, very obscured by foliage, and that's why I haven't seen it. But either way, I built it. And we put the door in, so the door is there. And now we're just going to try to make it look vaguely like the Indominus Rex paddock. So it sits in this kind of gravel. Of course, you see that when they're outside with the cars. I might add in some utility items around it, but a lot of this is because I'm obviously trying to put this on the workshop, so I kind of want it to be clean. The plant life won't be part of the workshop. Basically, everything we did before this point is what you'll get if you download my thing on the workshop. But adding the plant life, and had to do a lot of this manually because the plant life in the Indominus Rex habitat is humongous. It's huge. Of course it is. You can't see the Indominus Rex for a lot of it. I have a slight suspicion. I don't know. It's funny because it feels in a way like the whole thing is too small. But I noticed the scale, so it's kind of throwing me for a little bit of a loop. I might scale the whole thing up just a little bit. A teeny tiny smidgen. But we'll have to see on that. But either way, there's a lot of scaling up the trees. I wanted it to feel you know, the Indominus Rex hides within the tree line. I wanted it to feel like you're surrounded and being sort of choked out by this forest, with just this thin, dirty path leading from the front gate to the back door, basically. That is the plan. Because they're walking along here, they're scouting around for the Indominus. Claire finds out, you know, she figures out everything, but it's too late by then, and the Indominus Rex is behind them. It eats one dude. Owen and that other security guard, they're running, they get outside, they hide by the car. Well, Owen hides under the car, the other guy hides by the car, and he gets eaten. So it might be nice to have some cars on the outside and stuff like that, but again, we're not trying to necessarily recreate the film. We're trying to recreate the buildings, don't get it wrong, but the whole idea... Oh yeah, so I'm throwing in an Acrocanthosaurus just because I don't want it to be a T-Rex, obviously, because we're going to have T-Rex Kingdom and stuff like that eventually. But I wanted something that looked vaguely Indominus Rex-esque, and this Acro has quite light colouring, so made a lot of sense. That is about it for this and from me. So yeah, pretty happy with the build. I think it's 99% accurate. There's a couple little things I might do a little change on. There's one detail in particular. It's very, very small. Like 99% of people are never going to notice, but I noticed. But yeah, I'm largely pretty bloody happy with it. Definitely going to do something a little smaller for the next video, I think, because this took some work. I'd like to do a small, focused build, and then we'll tackle the visitor center, both the exterior and the interior. Does that mean I have to... I know, I don't want to do like the kitchen and all the... I need to think about how I'm going to do this visitor center, because the idea of doing every single room... Oh, but imagine being able to walk through that. That would be so cool. Oh, but I'd have to build like the cinema area and the lab, and the chairs would have to somehow link them all together. It sounds like an absolute nightmare to build. But it sounds like a fun challenge as well. We'll see. But the problem I have right now is we've got the start of the game. You go through the gates, where you land at the helipad that we built first, and you go through the gates where we saw second. On the right-hand side, of course, is the bunker. That's just going to be like a little offshoot. And then you get to the visitor centre. And my idea in my head is that the visitor centre kind of kickstarts the tour proper. You know what I mean? And then we can start to have streets and shops and kind of make it feel more like an actual park in some ways. The idea a little bit is that it's a tour of Jurassic Park history, essentially. It's not necessarily meant to be a film recreation, even if the buildings are meant to be accurate. I don't know. I don't know what to do next. I'll start to plan the visitor center. There are some like good blueprints and stuff, and then we'll see what happens from there. But it's very scary. Either way, thank you very much for joining me. I'll show you some shots of the Indominus Rex paddock in a second. Please enjoy those. Of course, you can download this at the workshop if you just search for mine. Well, you can't search for me, but if you search for Indominus Rex, for example, I'm sure you'll find it on the workshop for Prehistoric Kingdom. And there you can follow me. I've got a collection with all my Jurassic Park stuff, as you can download that, subscribe to that, and be kept up to date with all my Jurassic Park stuff in one handy Prehistoric Kingdom collection. Alrighty, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks very soon. Throw me a like down below if you enjoyed the video. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye.
ready, we're good. We'll maneuver. Reaching out.